season. But anyway, first draft strategy. So I've been seeing a lot of posts, with the Bengals being at 10, we've talked about how the Bengals are in a weird position, especially for this draft. There's a lot of defensive players that go early, and the Bengals need defense. And there's a chance, I think it's an outside chance, but there is a chance. Yes, trades and mock draft, so get ready for that. I think there is a chance, an outside chance, Jeremiah Love falls to the Bengals. I do. He's been mocked there a few times. There's a few scenarios where it plays out, and Bengals fans just get so mad at those mocks because they're like, we don't need a running back. We have Chase Brown. Like, here's the thing. You draft assets, and this is where bad teams are bad. They continue to draft needs. And when you go into the draft with a bunch of clear holes with needs, that's when you reach on a player at a position that you need instead of getting a really good football player. So, in the example of Jeremiah Love, yes, we have Chase Brown. I love Chase Brown. This is not, a hate towards Chase Brown at all. I would love for him to get extended. I think that would be great for the Bengals. But you know what? Let's say, the contract negotiations are happening, nothing's working. Chase Brown he ends up, moving on in free agency. And we saw this with the Seattle Seahawks as Kenneth Walker moved on. Not saying that Chase Brown is as good as Kenneth Walker, but the hypothetical here. So then in the Bengals' current running back room, they don't have anyone. They have Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks. And I like Taj Brooks as a prospect. Samaje Perine is older, especially for a running back. You have to then replace Chase Brown. Well, let's look at this a different way. What if we draft Jeremiah Love, the Bengals draft Jeremiah Love, and then the running back room is Jeremiah Love, Chase Brown, and then Samaje Perine, and then Taj Brooks. Then, hypothetically, Chase Brown loses a little bit of leverage. Not that I don't want Chase Brown to get paid, but the Bengals also have more flexibility then, right? They can say, oh, okay, well, here, we'll just trade you to someone who's going to pay you a little bit more. Again, not what I want to happen, but drafting Jeremiah Love gives you that flexibility. Bengals don't run the ball as much as a lot of teams, but they do run the ball quite a bit, and they use their running backs in the receiving game a lot too, which Jeremiah Love would be great at. But Joe Burrow loves throwing to his running backs. So that being said, and again, I understand, would Jeremiah Love be the best pick for the Bengals? No, probably not. But would he be the best pick of players available? Possibly. If it's between Jeremiah Love and Keldrick Falk right now, I'm taking Jeremiah Love because Keldrick Falk, we don't know what he is. He's really just another Shamar Stewart, which fans hated last year. And now they're clamoring for Keldrick Falk because if it's over Jeremiah Love. I'm just saying you draft assets, give your team more flexibility, and then you can, look at what the Packers did a few years ago in 2020. They drafted Jordan Love because they knew Aaron Rodgers was either retiring or on his way out, going to another team. So they drafted their quarterback so that he could sit there for a few years. Was it, the best time? Probably not. Did it make sense at the time? Probably not. But look at how smooth that transition was. And I would actually argue that the quarterback is probably the one position you shouldn't do this with. Like if Fernando Mendoza falls for some reason, I'm not going to draft Fernando Mendoza at 10, right? But I just think that we need good teams, good football teams. Another example is the Seahawks again. Seattle Seahawks lost Kenneth Walker, but they have Zach Charbonnet. So that transition is probably going to be a lot smoother than it was if they didn't have Zach Charbonnet. I just think you draft good football players, best player available. A lot of these positions where there are holes, there are still players in free agency available that are going to be signed after the draft that you can sign after the draft. So I think that you draft your best player, get good football players on your football team, and then you figure it out from there. Because if you're just drafting for needs, then you're going to end up reaching, you're going to end up making bad decisions, and you're going to end up with a team full of bad football players or players who haven't developed to where they need to be. The other thing that teams should look at, and I'm assuming they do look at, is the difference in pay, right? So this actually would go against the Bengals selecting Jeremiah Love at 10. So the draft picks, their money is fixed, right? You know how much each draft pick is going to make. You also know how much the market value for each position is, right? So like edge rusher just got kicked up to $50 million a year. Awesome for edge rushers. But if I am a NFL GM and I'm looking at that and I'm kind of on the edge about my edge rusher, either someone I signed in free agency or someone who I know is going to be wanting a new contract soon, I kind of got to look at that and I got to go, look, do I want to pay this guy $50 million a year, or do I want to draft a guy and pay him, whatever, $8 million a year for 4 years? I mean, that the value is there. The positions like quarterback, wide receiver, edge rusher, cornerback, the value is there to draft them high because you can get a really, really good player, a top tier player, for as much as you'd have to pay a veteran for his in 1 year. You can get that rookie contract to be the equivalent. So you can get a steal there. So that's something else that you should consider. I think that's why some of these edge rushers are going to go so high. Some of these corners as well, guys like Mansour Delane, that, and then running back, tight end, offensive guard, those types of positions. There's not as big of a difference between what the rookies are getting paid and what the vets are getting paid. So that's something else to consider. That's kind of my draft strategy. That's how I'm looking into it. And that's why, if it comes down to somehow, I hope this doesn't happen, but if on draft night, it comes down to Keldrick Falk and it comes down to Jeremiah Love and the Bengals draft Jeremiah Love, then I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm still praying Sonny Styles falls. That's my wish. But we'll see what happens. I know that that's not likely. But I'm a faithful man, and I believe there's a God, and I'm hoping that God is a Cincinnati Bengals fan next Thursday.